the City Streets, the Advisory Committee. This is our second meeting. Today is the 11th of December, 2025, and I'll take a quick roll call. Colin, can we start at your side?
Yeah.
Colin Roth?
Yeah,
I'm
present.
sorry.
Yeah.
All right, Kathy Olstrom is not here. Steve Kerson?
Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here.
Here, and here. Great. Present. Everybody's here with the exception of Kathy, and who did tell me ahead of time that she's going to not be able to make this meeting. All right. I believe everybody got a copy of the minutes that Patricia Davis sent out back in November. Are there any questions or comments on the minutes? And do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Great. Seconded?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And thank you, Patricia, for doing those, by the way. It was very good. Correspondence. We have some correspondence from Mr. Decker, and he's also going to make a slight presentation later on, so I won't spend any time right now on it. And I believe that's the only correspondence. Although I need to tell you that just yesterday, I received a petition from a resident, Deborah Harper, and unfortunately, we did not receive it in time for it to be part of the agenda today. But it does exist, and I will have it to you as soon as, Mark, you don't have it yet, Marco, do you? It just came like yesterday at 4 o'clock. Ann had sent it to me, so, all right. But I have read it, and when we get to that, I'll be happy to share it with everybody. Okay. Old business. So the first matter of old business, we want to review the results of the member poll. Just to remind everybody, on our first meeting, we made quite a list of potential subjects that we may want, topics, if you will, that we may want to look into related to the safety and streets of Rehoboth Beach. And from our list of 22, I believe it was, I asked everybody to give me their priorities and the 5 top priorities, and I was able to mathematically figure out what is the 5 top priorities overall for this committee. And those priorities, if you give me a minute, I will review what those were. Oh, thank you. With 7 votes, we had combined the seasonality dates, parking, the dumpsters, and we're going to talk about that today. With 6 votes, review the speed limit and traffic study and traffic safety throughout the city. Also with 6 votes, study and review the regulations pertaining to motorized vehicles, i.e. e-vehicles, including the batteries of such, scooters and skateboards. With 4 votes, review prior parking and traffic studies for topics to be discussed. And I believe we got a copy of that to everybody, so they were able to look at that. And also with 4 votes, discuss stronger traffic and code enhancements and review changes to the fining structure. By fine, we mean the amounts of penalty that are charged when a person's in violation. All right. So we took those top 5 to the Board of Commissioners at the last meeting, and we asked the Board of Commissioners to approve those. As you remember, we are an advisory committee, and as an advisory committee, we really need to run everything past the Board of Commissioners so that we're not spinning our wheels on something that they may have no interest in. I'm happy to say they had quite a bit of interest in all 5 subjects and have authorized us to go ahead and look into those further, inviting the public to weigh in, and that's what we're going to do starting today. Let me turn this off. Okay, Ann Womack is sending me those documents right now that I'll see that everybody gets. All right. All right. I think that's the old business. Is there any other old business that I missed? Anybody have anything? No? New business. Okay, new business. Review any business being undertaken by prior committees. That's the wrong one. I have too many things. New business. Discuss the seasonality regulations in the 2 consistent seasons. That would include things like parking, construction, boardwalk, beach use by dogs, left turns, and there are many, many others. So I made a list, and shortly after I finished making my list, and by the way, thank you all for sending me other things that I added to the list, I got a note from Evan saying that he had also compiled a list, and his was far more comprehensive, which it was. So I have the list from Evan of those items that are currently subject to seasonality. So I'm going to invite the board members to open up discussion as to how we want to do this. Do we want to go over these one by one and discuss them individually, or do we want to discuss what the season should be first, date-wise, and then see which of those fit into those dates logically and which don't? Any input from anybody?
I would just say, in reading through both the one you put together and the one that I believe Evan has, there's a lot of overlap, and there's a lot in here that becomes so confusing that, you're within a day or two, that really doesn't make much sense to me.
Right.
That it really seems we need to have one date.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Whether that's the May 15th to September 15th, whether that's the May 1st to September 30th, I think is kind of what encompasses everything that's on here for the most part. And some of them are so minute as far as, especially, the dogs and stuff like that, that it doesn't seem to have much rhyme or reason as to why the date is, and even like parking for the residents, why the date is 15 days later versus the same date.
Right.
So that's just my input.
Well, let's take his, I think Evans is far more comprehensive. Let's take his and we'll just go over it one by one and if we're going to talk about dates, it makes far more sense, I believe, and anybody's welcome to chime in otherwise, that we use the dates of the current parking, because that would be the hardest thing for the city to change. I don't think the Board of Commissioners would want to hear that we want to go a week in either direction, because that becomes a big deal then, because we're extending the season. So if we were to take those dates, which are May 15th to September 15th, and see what else fits into those dates, that might be a good way to go forward. Everybody think?
Yeah, Mark, maybe what we should do then is skip what's May 15th to September 15th already.
Yeah,
And just
sure.
start
As we
with
go
the
through.
other periods, because it's much shorter that way, I think.
Yeah, we don't have to go over things that
and
are
then-
already
yeah,
that way.
yeah.
Agreed. All right, things, and I have my list. Does everybody have their list, or does everybody have a list? Okay. Some of these obviously don't matter, and I'm just going to put an X on the things. Personal vacation requests don't matter. Parking, as you just said, if we just stick with the parking the way it is, we can pretty well skip the parking. And for those folks that don't have the benefit of the list, the parking's permit parking system, scooter parking system, issuing of parking permits, and parking meters. And if we're going to agree that we're going to leave those untouched, we will. The next ones, skateboards, scooters, roller skates, rollerblades, bicycles on boardwalk, and bicycles and other vehicles propelled by humans. The current days are, and it's sort of backwards, so I'm going to read it directly for those folks who don't have the benefit of the list. It shall be unlawful for any person to ride or operate any skateboard and/or any other sidewalk, on any sidewalk, or adjoining any street in the city of Rehoboth Beach from May 15th to September 15th, meaning that from September 15th to May 15th, they are permitted. With the exception, there are exceptions. The exception is the boardwalk and Rehoboth Avenue, from Canal Bridge to the boardwalk. So to summarize that, the current law says that from those dates, which are the same as the parking dates, luckily, skateboards are not ever allowed on the boardwalk, never allowed on Rehoboth Avenue, but are allowed on other city streets. Is that everybody's
So it's the
understanding?
same dates, it's
the
just
same
an
dates.
exclusion instead of an
Right.
inclusion.
We may want to talk more about that exclusion later on,
Right.
but for this topic, there's no need to change the date.
Correct.
We all agree?
Agreed.
Okay. Storage of construction materials. This one says, storage of construction materials, no applications for building permits from May 15th to September 15th shall be granted by the building officials unless storage of all materials and construction shall be in a manner as to not interfere with pedestrian vehicle traffic. In other words, on the lot. And I think that's currently May 15th, no reason to change that one either. Are we good? During the period, May 15th, still talking about operation of a pile driver. During the operation, May 15th to September 15th, we should be prohibited by any person to operate, use, or allow operation of any use of a pile driver or any power-driven machinery that drives sheathing within the corporate limits of the city of Rehoboth Beach. Now, we chuckle at that, but I think I have a friend, you have a friend that is next door to a property that's being pile-driven, if that's a word. So we'll leave those exactly the way they are, May 15th to. Demolition prohibited. Again, demolition shall be prohibited from May 15th through September 15th. No need to change that, except with exceptions made by the city manager, which happened in this past summer with the Hotel One. And lastly, moving prohibited. During the period commencing May 15th through September 15th of each and every year, it will be prohibited for any person to move any building or structure which has a width of more than 15 foot or has a square footage of more than 750 square feet. So again, no need to change that.
I have a question. We have the dates down, but what about the times of day that these things can be done? I mean, nobody wants pile driving at,
Well,
3 in the morning.
we are going to get to the time of dates for construction.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's a good question, and the dates do come up at a later time.
Okay.
I know we had put them on mine, so I found them, so I assume they're up in here, too. Good question. And again, parking on prohibited streets. Okay, this is a situation, there are a couple of streets, for reasons unknown to me, I don't know if you know why, where parking is prohibited at different periods. It's Lake Drive and a couple of streets over by Lake Drive. Do you know why, Elise? Neither do I, but here they are.
Back in the day, I think there was a lot of problems late at night where people
what
were
it was?
parking down there. This is years ago, and I don't know why this still exists, but it does.
Well, I'll read it to you, and here's the prohibition. On the south side of Queen Street, which is over by the lake, from Lake Drive to King Charles, on the north side of Queen Street, from the boardwalk to King Charles, and the south side of Queen Street from the boardwalk to Lake, from 12 midnight to 6 a.m., from May 15th to September 30th of each year.
Sorry, that's May 14th.
I'm sorry, what did I say? May 14th to September 30th of each year. And on both sides of Prospect Street, from 12 a.m., 12:01 a.m. to 6 a.m., from May 14th to September 30th of each year. And thirdly, on the west side of Lake, between Queen Street and Prospect Street, at any time. And on the east side of Lake, between Queen Street and Prospect Street, from 12 midnight to 6 a.m., from May 14th to September 30th. So for an additional 2 or 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, those streets have late night prohibition against parking. Would you like me to ask and see if I can find out for the next meeting the reason? There may be a good reason, and I hate to do away with it if there's a good reason for it, but there may not be either.
I think it makes sense because that's the whole point of this is seasonality. So
Right.
we want to try and line everything up
Sure.
together. So I would
Sure.
think if we could change it to match May 15th to September 15th, unless there's some
Let's find out.
public, safety
I'm
issue.
going to make a question mark on that, and I will, I'll
Mark,
ask-
I would agree with that, but I'd honestly like to see it removed completely.
Yeah, I would too.
Because I have a feeling it's historic. If you think about the history of this town and the history of that area of the beach, I think it probably has some connotations to it that I don't like. And so I'd prefer to see it gone completely unless there's, I can't imagine what the reason is.
No, I can't imagine it
That's where it
currently.
came
I get
from.
late night people parking out in front of my house too, and, so I'd like to see it gone.
Let's find out, and.
We have to change it anyway, right?
Right, and we'll make it subject to change unless we get a good reason not to.
And that even prevents the residents from parking there, so they have to move their cars into their driveway.
Yes.
There's no special permit, there's no nothing. If I lived on that street, I would have already raised a lot of questions about it, but
It's interesting nobody has.
I
know?
I don't.
It may not be enforced. I'm not sure the parking guys
Oh,
are
that-
out that late
it
at
could be.
night, so.
Yeah, it might be, right. You live over there, right? Yeah. And do you know anything about it? No. Well, okay. All right, we'll find out for everybody's sake. All right, dogs and animals. Here's the one that has come up repeatedly. Dogs running at large. Well, I wish they would call it something else other than dogs running at large, but dogs may not remain on the city beach or boardwalk from May 1st through September 30th, Dogs on any city or public beach from October 1st to April 30th may remain if they are leashed, well-behaved, obedient, well-socialized, under direct supervision and under control of a owner or custodian. Pets on any city property must be leashed on any city property must be leashed at all times. Should say the same for kids. It doesn't. But it doesn't. All right, so here's the thing. I don't think that anybody is looking to change any of that except the dates. We agreed, everybody wants to keep them leashed, keep them under control, keep them well-behaved, but
Except as that's written, it's illogical. Who's going to leave their dog on the boardwalk from May 1st to September 30th?
unleashed.
No, it says dogs may not remain on the city beach or the boardwalk. That means it's saying your dog's going to stay from May 1st to September 30th.
Right. Well, I think that's an easy one, low-hanging fruit. As far as- So is there any more discussion, or are we okay changing that suggesting that be changed to the May 15th?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Only apologies for the behavior of my dogs when they're on leashes and I'm walking.
You take full responsibility?
Yes.
All right. Next, and I will read it. No person who is the owner or has control of any dog or other animal shall permit or suffer the dog or other animal to go upon the main boardwalk or upon the beach or strand of the city at any time between May 1st of any year until September 30th of any year, both dates inclusive. I don't even know what that means. I think what it means is that you cannot force a dog, or you cannot put somebody else's dog, perhaps. I'm not sure what they're even responding
I think it probably
to that.
means whoever's just in control of the dogs is
Yeah,
responsible.
Right, right. So, but you think
Again,
number
let's
one
just
would
align,
have,
let's align that date.
right, yeah.
I think it essentially means what the first article said,
Yeah.
but it's better written.
All right, whatever it is, we'll leave it be. Vehicles, certain turns prohibited. For those of you that may not know, there are certain places where you cannot turn left, like going towards the beach on Rehoboth Avenue at First Street, you cannot turn left in the summertime, but you are allowed to turn left in the wintertime. And the reason you can't turn left is there's another light and there's only space for one car. And the first car turns and then is stopped by a light, and there's no room for a second car. So the second car is now hanging out into Rehoboth Avenue. So anybody that's been that second car knows what I'm talking about. So I will read it now. No driver of any motor vehicle can make a left turn at any time, May 1st inclusive to September 30th inclusive of each year at the following locations. And then it just lists the places where those are relevant. It's eastbound lane of Rehoboth Avenue into North 2nd Street, westbound lane of Rehoboth Avenue into South 2nd Street, eastbound lane of Rehoboth Avenue into North 1st Street, westbound lane of Rehoboth Avenue into South 1st Street, and lastly, 1st Street into Rehoboth Avenue, 2nd Street into Rehoboth Avenue. So again, why these dates are different, I don't know.
And I will say the city does a good job of marking those streets that you can't make a left. But again, no reason why we couldn't put them into the May 1st to, May 15th to September 15th category.
Maybe at a later date, we might want to come back to this and see whether it would be wiser just to do away with them completely and no turns anytime.
I think the larger question is the traffic calming, so not
Yes,
part of this discussion,
right,
but I agree
but it
with
will
that.
be. And this is a good example of where we make our own problems, because if the second car hanging out in Rehoboth Avenue blocks traffic, people try to go around them. Okay, we'll come back.
I had proposed on the streets and transportation to not allow any left turns at all. And that got shot down. But we could always bring it up again.
we have a-
The chief said there's no accidents, there hadn't been any accidents or this and that, and no one wanted any parts of it. But I think it should be looked at because it's a major traffic problem.
I agree.
Same with the right on reds,
Yes.
which they get rid of as well. You know, there are weekends, we have a lot of people crossing, and the right on reds are a concern.
I'll throw this out here. Do we want to just add that to our suggestions? I mean, if we're all in agreement on it, we could
So
There's
you're
no
saying,
reason why we couldn't
you're
add
saying
it.
no lefts, but you can still make U-turns where those,
Well, you go
where
down
those
further,
turns
you
are.
can
go
make,
fur-
right,
yeah,
you go
okay.
down half a
Yeah.
block and there's a U-turn.
U-turn.
Or there's the big horseshoe at the end.
Right, okay,
Because these are all Rehoboth Avenue or close to it.
yep, that's fine.
Does anybody have any feelings on it? Do we want to go ahead and just, while we're at it, ask if that be made a permanent no-turn period?
Yeah, I would
I'll leave it
propose
to you to come up with some
that
nice
if
language.
people are willing to, I would,
would-
I would propose that we consider making this year-round, those changes year-round.
The only challenge I think you may have is delivery trucks, making a U-turn in the areas where you're talking about versus a, left-hand turn directly onto that street. I think that's the only place that may have a challenge with that. I think general pedestrian driving wouldn't be an issue, but I think we get so many deliveries into town every single day. We may just be pushing the issue from the left turn to the U-turn to the circle.
I think the trucks have more of a problem than the cars, though, because they can't fit in that one little spot that's allotted for waiting traffic. Shall we bring it to the commissioners and see what they think?
Sure.
Bring them, okay? All in favor of that?
Yes.
All right, we're going to do it. All right. Beach, persons prohibited from beach. Persons are prohibited from and shall not be on the beach between the hours of 1 a.m. and daybreak during the period between May 1st and May 30th. Is there any reason why we couldn't?
This would be an easy
Subject
one.
this, right.
Couldn't we just remove this? I don't know why people are sleeping on the beach ever.
Yeah, right.
So that would be a simple one to remove.
It'll be a simple one to add on to the same dates as everything else.
Right.
I think there should be no dates.
Yeah, I agree. Why
It
should,
should be year-round.
Okay. That's probably reasonable considering the issues last year. Two different police issues.
Well, part of the issue is you get half a dozen 14-year-old girls that want to go down to the beach at 3 a.m. They're no safer in May than they are in December.
True. Okay. Everybody else? Okay. All year. Okay, and Steve Curson, this is right up your alley, no smoking. I still thank you for that. From May 1st to September 30th of each year, there'll be no more than 20 areas where smoking is permitted. Again, shouldn't this match? If you don't know, I'm looking at Steve. Steve is the one that headed this a couple of years ago, the no smoking on the boardwalk.
I didn't think we could smoke at all on the
beach.
boardwalk.
No, you're not allowed to.
But this says you are.
Well, it says only in certain areas.
From May 1st to September 30th of each year, there shall be no more than 20 areas where smoking is permitted. So you can smoke.
But this doesn't say anything about the boardwalk, does it?
Didn't say where, right?
Well, that's even more confusing. It doesn't say where you can
Right.
smoke.
Yeah.
So,
Why shouldn't that just be, year-round? Again.
and what are the 20 designated areas?
Mark, I think our remit here today is, are things going to be put into this September to March, or are we recommending they be annualized, right? Or just dropped completely, but I don't think we get into I agree, it's a weird thing, but for me, that's, if we have it, that should be year-round.
I don't know whether 20, I looked to Steve because he's.
Well,
like you say,
originally, when we
studied
set up
it.
the no smoking on the beach, we designated some spots back by the dunes
Sand fence.
that people could smoke at. I don't know if that's what they're referring to here or not.
Colin, you're suggesting that we annualize it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see why
Yeah,
they should be
That side,
just
everybody
just
agree
in the
over here?
summer.
So
Let's make it-
I have no problem with annualizing it, but so if the people want to smoke, so where do they go if they want to have a cigarette? I don't smoke, and I agree with it, but right now we allow them to smoke by the dunes, and if you don't allow them to smoke on the boardwalk, you've got to have a smoking section on the sidewalk past the boardwalk, I guess.
Exist, but
There
I don't
are.
know where they are.
Yeah, there's a sign actually right in front of our restaurant that has a smoking area, and it has a trash can for are smoke butts. So there are areas that are clearly marked.
Are they on the boardwalk, Mike?
No, they're off the boardwalk about probably 10, 15 feet. There's a sign there.
Well, again, if we simply annualize the rule, it doesn't really matter to us today where those 20 are.
Right.
Okay? Got it. Farmers market. Well, this is one we probably shouldn't dare touch, but sacred ground here. The period from May 1st to October 31st of any year, with one additional market allowed November 15th and January, between November 15th and January 15th. This goes beyond the September 15th, of course, and I think we'd get resistance if we tried to change it, that they had to stop having farmers markets.
You would.
Right, yeah. So should we just let that one be, right? Everybody
Those
agree?
dates are what the market run from, first Tuesday in May to the last Tuesday of October.
Right, of course, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so-
that's something that's not in our, right. Okay. I think that's it. Is there?
No, I didn't bring the dates with me, but there's a couple other points. Rollins had
Go right ahead.
a couple additions, and I raised the issue, I think, of the leaf pickup. But I didn't bring the dates with me.
Right here. That's what you sent right there.
Okay. So Dave's got here leaves first week of October to the second Friday of May. And then trash pickup dates change November 1st to April 15th.
That's also a money thing too, right? So it was done to conserve money.
Right.
The leaf pickup, we could easily, I mean, they'll pick up leaves when there are leaves to be picked up, no matter what date we put. But we could make it simple by saying the leaf pickup is September 15th until May 15th. There'd be no harm done,
Correct.
right? So let's do that. May 15th, or,
And I personally find the trash and recycling switchover confused. It's not a big deal, but confusing. If they could, that could be aligned. It is a money thing, and I wouldn't want to put a substantial additional burden on anything. But aligning those would make some sense. For the it's that 2-week period. It's a little. I'm never quite sure. So
it starts November 1st now.
yeah.
Right.
So I don't think that has to go with the other
No,
things.
because
That can
we-
be its own period, but I think aligning it might make some
I
sense.
think people who actually use the weekly pickup right up through the fall.
Yeah.
I mean, those of us live here all year long miss it when it suddenly goes to every other week for recyclables.
We're talking about recycling.
Recyclables and, right,
Well, trash is still 1 week every week.
right.
Well-
But it's 2 in the summer.
Right.
Yeah, but then the recycling has a different schedule than the trash
Yeah,
pickup.
Yeah.
And the recycling's out of our control, I think.
Well,
It's not done by the
because
city.
the recycling's a different day because they don't want the trucks on the road
Right.
the same day as our garbage trucks are on the road.
Right.
We don't own the Blue Hen garbage trucks.
True, but the Fridays, we still have trucks on the road on Friday.
Right, yeah. But I mean, that's the reason they told us that it was, the Blue Hen was at their own date.
Right.
It's not to conflict with our trucks. Well, should we just leave the trash be and change the leaves? I mean, the leaves aren't gonna be, there's no harm done.
We can always revisit it.
Yeah, or you can just ask the city manager if, in the future, when the contracts are renewed, if they could align them, it would be convenient. But I don't think it's a desperate issue.
I'm just trying to think back. It seemed to me that, wasn't that a discussion once before? And there was a reason not to, and I forget what the good reason was,
Which part of the,
about relying them the same week, so that you're not 1 week getting garden trash and next week you're getting recyclables.
well, once again, I don't know if the city has any controls to when, I guess it's Blue Hen comes out and does the recycling.
We'll find out. We will
Yeah.
invite the manager to visit us. All right.
What I would like to see is, and it's off topic, is the calendar that we just got from the city has the trash and yard waste times on it, but doesn't include the recycling. So you have to go in and kind of modify that calendar to
Isn't there
include
a
it.
second calendar?
Pardon?
I think there's a second calendar.
There is.
There is?
There is a second calendar, but why can't they be one calendar?
Yeah.
Right.
There's a
Just
second
align the
calendar
two.
for
Whatever that
recycling.
can be done to align the two makes a lot of sense.
Let's just put that on as an add-on.
Now, Mark, you had on your list here restroom openings.
Oh, right. So the restrooms, some are closed, some are open. The same with the shower, the foot showers. I understand that they're not on a current system. It's like when nobody's using them and the weather's cold, we close them. And it's the same with the bathrooms. They keep 2 bathrooms open all year long, and the rest of them, they're sort of on a
Well,
laissez-faire.
I think they're sort of open.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Because if you go at 5 a.m., they're not.
Right, nor should they be. So I just put that in there. I don't know if anybody has any strong feelings about it one way or the other. We would have to really work with the city manager to figure out why,
I think
why they closed them.
I think if we tried to go to the May to September routine, that would be a problem.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, so particularly September, because that's before Sea-Witch.
Yeah.
We can't go to the bathrooms.
I think they should at least keep the one on Rehoboth Avenue open all year
they do.
and close the other
Yeah.
2.
Mark, you had also on your list, it's, I think a big one that's not part of this building construction, which kind of surprised me, is the construction banned Saturday, May 1st through October 31st. I don't know why that can't sit in the same May 15th to September 15th.
Of course, the building permits, it's a matter of the, when they can build at any time during the year, but it's easier for them to build after September 15th because they can put the dumpster on the city property. So that's usually what their incentive is for that date. They can't get a building permit before September 15th. But once they have it, they can continue into the next summer because they're good for a year. That makes
So this just says construction banned
On
May
Saturdays.
1st through October 31st. Oh, banned Saturdays, I'm sorry.
Saturdays, right.
It's-
Saturdays only.
It's, yeah.
Right.
You're good.
Right, and the dates are still lined up with our other dates. Yeah. I don't think there's anything else about the construction that has odd dates. I mean, the April or the May 15th date seems to be relevant to everything having to do with construction. All right, did we miss anything else? If not, I'll go to the public and see if we've missed anything else. Is anybody asking if we stay on topic having to do with the seasonality issues? If anyone has anything they'd like to add or ask or comment on? No? Yes, Elise, sure. I'm not sure which one works.
I think you got to use this
The
one
mic
here.
over there.
Yeah, this one doesn't work.
Hi, Elise Burns, 130 Henlopen. I just thought about the bathroom times. I mean, I was just thinking about last Saturday, the marathon and the Santa Crawl all on the same day. And if you got bathrooms closed, that's not good. So maybe they should be opened on the weekends when we have big events. I mean, we seem to have big events now through
And they
mid-December.
are. I think that's why we say they're not a set time. They open them and then they close them during the week and
Okay.
open them on weekends. They're
Okay,
able
but
to
I-
open them and close them at a minute's notice.
Okay, so I just wanted to raise that. And then, Steve, your mention about the calendar, I think you were talking about the printed calendar that we got in the mail.
Yes.
Right,
That you all did.
Was.
right.
So they made a mistake in not putting recycling.
Well, they never do, I think.
Oh, well, that kind of,
It's
it
a
seems,
separate contract.
seems like,
Yeah.
but they don't put it on the calendar, you said.
The calendar we got in the mail.
Yeah, even though they have trash, they should have recycling on there
Well, once
too.
again, it's a different company that, manages it.
But there's 2 calendars on the website. I'm just thinking on,
It's a little thing,
if
but
you
there
got
could be
that
one
printed
calendar.
calendar, everything should be on there. It would be helpful.
Right. Thanks, Elise. Anybody else? All right. All right. Then, let's just take a 2-minute break. Anybody want to take a break before we go into the next subject? Or are we ready? Okay. I think we'll go a little bit out of order and ask Mr. Decker if he would mind making his presentation now, because we're going to talk about some of the items that you are going to present, so you're on.
Good morning, everybody,
Good morning.
and thank you for this opportunity. What I'm going to do is just take a couple minutes to go over what I have called my wish list. I mean, if there's other issues you want to talk about, I'm happy to say I don't know. But anyway, so wish list. I'm just going to make a couple quick comments on some of the items that are in here and just kind of walk through it. Near and dear to my heart, 15 miles an hour. And it's not going to be an easy thing to do. It's actually the easiest thing to do. If you look at the picture that I've got there, I visit a daughter in Annapolis. She's actually in a small community nearby, and some of these pictures were taken in her neighborhood, and so that's probably about a $10 15 mile per hour sign that's in her neighborhood. It's a little plastic thing, but it works. It works. I'd also like to point out that we have a TV star over here, Mr. Roth, was on both WBOC and WRDE the other night, and specifically on the 7 o'clock news on Monday on WBOC. He made reference to 15 miles an hour as being, I think, a good speed limit. But anyway, moving along, stop signs. Number 2 on my list, number 1 in my heart. These are very inexpensive options to slow the traffic down, literally stopping it. What I've got here is a list of the different streets: Bayard, King Charles, Scarborough, Columbia, Henlopen, and State, and where I would suggest stop signs would be useful to calm the traffic. I'd also point out that at last week's regular Board of Commissioners meeting, Patrick Gossett made specific reference in the discussion about King Charles Street about having stop signs at every intersection. I'm not going to go that far, but you know, more is better. Okay, paint. I'm big into paint. Oh, Marco, thank you for putting that up there. That's great. Looks good. So that's where I am now on the intersections. I don't know. I mean, it's just so inexpensive to have all 4 elements of an intersection have the crosswalks. And I think somebody brought it up at the board meeting about how, you know, people are not going to go this way and then that way. They're just going to go across where there isn't a crosswalk. So I consider that to be an important issue. Let's see here. Road diets. You can see that in several places in town. It's very effective leading up to 2nd Street and Rehoboth Avenue, just like you see in this illustration here. I'm going to go to putting yellow lines down, specifically on Columbia. That will be helpful. I'm big into the yellow lines on driveways. It was very effective over on Munson Street back a few years ago. I'm also big on painting the parking places, white paint parking places, all through town. And as I've got in the parentheses there, it's a moneymaker. You know, if you identify these spots, people aren't just going to park willy-nilly. They're going to park within the lines. You make more money. Yes. On King Charles, again at the meeting on last week, they were talking about 3 different options, and I've got in here option C. I'm actually good with any option that is going to slow the traffic down. So again, Mr. Roth was proposing for, I forget whether it was A or B, but I would point out that angled-in parking is what is used on Rehoboth Avenue, so I don't know that it's a significant issue if you would be doing it on King Charles. Again, you're going to raise the revenue. All right, $20 fines. Come on, I've said this before, I'll say it again. And in fact, Saturday night, I'll be having my second martini of the week. You can't get a good one for $20 in this town. That's just the way it is. I'm always trying. But anyway, this is going to need more research. I had a great meeting with Chief Banks a couple weeks ago. We discussed this issue. It's not going to be necessarily an easy fix, but I think it is possible. They've done it in Lewis. We need to crank that number up. And as I understand it, you're also going to be talking about raising some of these fines for like parking violations and that sort of thing in the committee. Well, this is another one I think you should be considering as well. Raising awareness.
So I'm sorry, Hoyt,
Sir.
what infractions are you talking about with the $20 and the $200?
So a speeding ticket in this town
Okay.
is a $20
Okay.
ticket, okay?
All right, thank you.
If you've done it more than once, it goes up to $40. It should be $200 and $400. Anyway, so I don't know if you guys saw the Cape Gazette last week. I sent a letter in to the editor. I was just trying to raise your awareness about issues that are significant. Maybe you'll take a look at it. The digital readers we have around town, actually, I discovered there was another one on Hickman Street. There's 4. And again, more is better on that. Signboards. We actually had several during the parade last week, and they are very effective. And sometimes you will see a signboard just just east of the bridge coming in on Rehoboth Avenue. And I've kind of doctored the sign up a little bit to give you my proposal for a speed limit, which would be strongly enforced and a $200 fine to go with that. So anyway, thought on that. Enforcement. Again, in my meeting with the chief, they're out there. They're mainly doing things over on the north side of town, but they're out there, and it is effective. As I said to the chief, a little goes a long way. If it's done where people are going to see it, maybe a little more, that again is going to raise awareness. So this next picture, it's at the bottom over there. This is one of their new, or I don't know how new it is, but it's a traffic recorder. And what you see in the details there is actually what the police department supplied to me. I just stuck that in there. So that's exactly what it's done. Again, it's primarily used, or it has been recently, on the Columbia and Henlopen. So there's that thing. It gives you a lot of good information. I'm getting there. I'm almost done. State program.
I'm sorry, do we use those today, the traffic orders?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
They're out there. Okay. Yeah. That is a city police department device, and they're out there quite a bit. Okay, there is a state program. They will bring a device similar to what you see there and set it up in residential districts. That's the good news. The bad news is you have to go through so many hoops. It's probably not worth it, and moreover, it's a contract operation, and these guys are getting at least, I think the chief told me it's about 20% of the revenue. So, I'm not saying don't do it, but it's a hard thing to get to. Bump outs. So again, back on King Charles, it's a perfect opportunity to narrow the roadway and slow the traffic down. I'm sorry, that example I've got up there is not very good. There's There's actually some bump outs over in my daughter's neighborhood too that I didn't get pictures of. But anyway, the chief, I want to point out, take a look at the web link that I gave you for the Milton traffic calming study. It's well worth your time. Take a look at it. When I mentioned it to the chief, he was aware of it. He said, hey, Bethany Beach. So I went down to Bethany Beach, and I'll tell you what, Pennsylvania Avenue is just like King Charles. And what they've done is they've done the parallel parking route, but they've got a bike lane and a sidewalk. It's not a sidewalk, but a walking lane that are from the curb out to where the parallel parking places are. So you're protected. You know, you can imagine in the summertime it's all cars. I've got some pictures I can send you. I just took them here last week, and of course there's no cars there, but nevertheless, it'll give you an idea what's going on. Okay. So the next couple, 3 items, speed bumps. As I say in this little thing here, it is probably the most effective, but it's the most onerous. The real issue here is who's going to have it in front of their house, okay? So you've heard of NIMBY, not in my backyard. Well, my word is NUMFY, not in my front yard. So that's something to think about. I guess it didn't work too good up in, what was it, Columbia? Whatever. There was one in Columbia. Yeah, but not too crazy about it. So speed humps. Again, this picture is from my daughter's neighborhood. It's what I would call good, okay? And it's effective. If she drives a big old SUV and she just cruises right over that thing, but for most cars, it will slow them down a little bit. A little bit better is the next item there, which is called a table. It can be up to 22 feet long. If you go over to the Tanger outlets, you'll see a modified table kind of arrangement in their parking lots there. Let's see, where am I? Yeah, okay, and the best option would be to do the entire intersection. Well, that's going to be awfully expensive, and the good part of that is that the level that they make it at is right up to the sidewalk curb height. So it's very effective. I've seen a couple of them around. Last item, what you're going to do is influence people's perception and also hopefully change their behavior. And so my little illustration there is a frog. So my catchphrase for this is, all the speeding princes are going to turn into frogs. So thank you very much. One other little unrelated item. I'm going to give this to Marco. I don't know if you guys have seen the New York Times. It's about the e-bike and, you know, the issues that it raises, and I know that's something that's on your to-do list. So I'll give it to Marco, and you guys can take a look.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, certainly.
Questions? Yes.
Yeah, Hoyt, from your bumps to your humps to your tables.
Yep.
Are there, are any of those compatible with snowplows?
Well,
Yes.
indeed. To your question, yes, that is an issue. It's an issue for emergency vehicles. So it's not just the snowplow. But yes, it certainly is an impediment for them.
The longer the thing, the better.
Right.
That's right.
I'll share with, I just watched a thing, Walkable America did a webathon this week about designing safe streets, and they talked about exactly this, snowplow issues and everything else going over. The speed bumps are the worst.
Okay, so the speed bump on Columbia disappeared due to a snowplow?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yes, yeah.
That's my standard answer. I don't know.
Hoyt, you keep bringing up this, first off, thanks for this
Yes.
rather large and very detailed presentation. I appreciate it. I read through the whole thing. You keep bringing up the $20 fine for speeding. That's not the only fine, though, that's attached to that ticket, correct?
There were associated costs, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, a $20 fine, if you get away for it for less than $100, you're okay.
Exactly, yeah, because the faster you go, the more the fine is.
Yeah, that's incremental, but
Yeah.
there's a justice of the peace charge and all this
Yeah.
other.
I just don't want
ancillary-
everybody to think that it's only a $20
Yeah,
ticket.
right,
So, okay.
yeah. And I usually have more than one martini too, so. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Hoyt. We appreciate your time.
How much of that stuff he was talking about doing is gonna block water drainage?
None.
If you build a thing in an intersection from corner to corner to corner to corner, you're gonna be blocking the water.
Yeah, I don't think we're doing that yet. But,
But I'm just saying, it's, what he said is gonna block water.
well, bring it up and we'll have a discussion. Can I just add a couple of things? Two things. Hoyt mentioned King Charles. The Board of Commissioners has asked us to look into the situation at King Charles, and Evan Miller is going to be attending our next meeting, second Thursday in January, to present the facts on King Charles and what the options are and what the costs are. And the Board of Commissioners has asked us to preview that and then get back to them with our thoughts on it. So Evan will be our guest at the next meeting. And as far as the amount of fines go, the Board of Commissioners is recently put together a new methodology for documenting our fines, making a list separate from the budget so that the fines can go up and down at will without having to change the charter and the regulations and so forth. And in that vein, the Board of Commissioners will be looking at every fine, if you want to call it fine, or end charge, sometime during the next budget period, which is the next 3 or 4 months. So we don't have to deal with that. That's the good news. Somebody else will be dealing with it. All righty?
Well, you will be. You will be.
I will pay, yes. So moving on, as we mentioned, of course, street calming is a big issue. It's probably one of the reasons that we exist more than anything else. Lots and lots of different things fall under the issue of traffic calming, for everything from the speed bumps to the traffic lights to the fines. But it's probably the one thing that the entire city has in common is everybody has a problem, whether it be speeding or bumps or noise or something. In a perfect world, we would be able to solve the entire problem all at one time. It's a big holistic opportunity to work in the bikes and the e-bikes and everything else. But in the real world, we're probably better off if we take a bite at a time. And I sort of think, unless anybody strongly disagrees, that's the way that we ought to do it. Talking about one section of town perhaps and seeing what works over there and then going to another section, and which would have a different problem. Currently, the problem of the day, due to a number of people that have concerns, is the situation over at Henlopen and Columbia. And forgive me if I don't get this narrative exactly right. Everybody will have an opportunity to correct me. But I believe the situation was we had a bump on Columbia, not far from the circle. When the bump was there, cars would avoid the bump by either going around the bump and onto people's yards or going over to Henlopen Avenue and driving down Henlopen Avenue. So the traffic on Henlopen Avenue picked up, and it also didn't stop anybody from speeding, just they were speeding on a different street. Sometime in the past year and a half, a snowplow took out the speed bump on Columbia, and some residents have sent us a petition asking us to restore it. Other residents have contacted us through the Board of Commissioners asking us not to restore it. So that's where we are. If anybody, if I've misspoken on anything, let me know. Otherwise, that's where we are. So I think that what our obligation is to look for some way to solve the problem of the speeding on Columbia, which I don't think anyone doubts is a problem. I mean, no one doubts. I've been over there. I walk my dog there. I go down Columbia and up Henlopen. There's no doubt that there's a speeding issue. So I think what we should best do is figure out what we can implement that would reduce the speeding issue, calm the neighborhood, and do so without having a situation where we have to discuss speed bumps. Anybody want to add in, or yes, please?
Well, I'd like to offer a thought. and it doesn't have to do, it impacts Columbia Avenue, which I think is a more complex problem. But I think it's a problem we need to solve that involves pedestrians and bicycles and so forth. And so my thought is actually closing Henlopen Avenue to through traffic, meaning anybody who lives on Henlopen Avenue would have to go down Columbia and then take one of the side streets to get back to Henlopen Avenue. But that would actually complete the bike path, the circular bike path. It would also do an awful lot to removing pedestrians and bicyclists from the through traffic. I don't think there's any reason to believe that if you closed it off to through traffic, there would be substantially fewer vehicles traversing Henlopen Avenue. And I think a simple concept of, barriers right on, is that Surf Avenue at the end, and then Grove Street on the other end, with sufficient openings for bicyclists to get through. Now, the argument probably is, well, that pushes more traffic onto Columbia. I don't think we know that. Since the stop signs have gone up on Henlopen Avenue, and there's no stop sign on Columbia, I don't know, how much additional traffic would end up on Columbia, if any. Just don't know the answer to it. But it would certainly go a long way to protecting pedestrians, bicyclists, and calming the traffic on Henlopen Avenue. As I say, I don't know what the outcome is for Columbia Avenue, but I think Columbia Avenue is a tough nut unto itself, whether you do anything with Henlopen Avenue or not. So that's just a thought.
So this is not necessarily associated with that, but I was thinking when you talked about, let's start looking at this by sections, of the city, would be something, of course, we should be doing. But in addition, I would like to suggest that we also look at two different groups. What can we do? What can we advise? What can we recommend moving forward for the summer 26th group, and then longer-term issues? So how can we make effective change for the summer coming up with regard to our recommendations? And then there are longer-term issues that we can put in a separate group. So that would just be one of my recommendations.
I think those are, I like both of those. I like cheap and quick, right? And I think that's what I heard from the commissioners the other day, is if we can find, paintable ideas that are just paint on the ground, and we're not going to do massive infrastructure rebuilds or anything else. So I think that should definitely be a focus. I'd also say we should try to stay at least somewhat rooted in the traffic and transportation study from '24. I'd note a couple things in it. There's 3,000 vehicles a day, it says, going down Henlopen Avenue. They're going to go somewhere, right? So we need to balance out how people are going to get, somewhere along there. There's also some interesting speed numbers there for 85th percentile speed and everything else that we should keep ourselves rooted in, because again, as noted by the commission last week, people are maybe not driving as fast as your impression is when you're out walking your dog. It just seems pretty fast. But I think that the cheap and cheerful, the idea of really looking and saying, look, if we just throw paint down for crosswalks everywhere, if we stripe the medians, I think those are the first steps that we should be thinking at. And those can become holistic for the whole city, right? We can start in particular pain points, but then we can set the trend for the rest of the city for this. For me, those are stop signs, paint on the road, crosswalks, and the like. So.
And that's a question I would have for Evan, I guess, for his upcoming meeting with us. is a stop sign a long-term, or is that a quick and cheap? I mean, how quickly can you install stop signs? I don't know.
Pretty quick, I would think.
I think
So
you need,
that could
you
be-
might, depending upon the road, you probably need DDOT input.
Would probably be
Delaware Department of Transportation input. So that might be the constraining item on certainly on like State Road, which is a state road. You would need their input.
I think
Yeah, so the major arteries, you may need more input. So that's I would think that's the delaying thing. The other thing over on King Charles that I care about is where you put it, because the street's so wide. Putting a stop sign way over on the side doesn't do you any good, right? The stop sign's got to be visible, so you need the bump outs to have a spot to anchor the stop signs.
Columbia or First and Second Street, which,
I don't know those as well, but you'd have to look and see, is there a safe place to
Exactly.
put a literal pole in the ground that isn't just going to get run over, like the silent policemen are? So I think installing a stop sign is easy. We could go out there and do it this afternoon. But I think the DDOT approval is probably what we need feedback on.
and that's something for Evan, I think he
Yeah.
could help us with.
Interesting. I went out and counted them. On Columbia, there are no stop signs until you get down to 3rd Street. So all the way up from Sussex Street, it's Sussex, Felton, Kent, 5th, Eastern, Dover, and 4th have no stop signs. So it's more or less, there is some stop signs? No. All right, so you're agreeing with me. All right, you were shaking your head no. All right, so at any rate, there certainly seems an opportunity to slow cars down with a.
Absolutely.
And on Henlopen, there aren't that many. There's one at Grove, of course. Felton, no. Gerard, no. 3rd, no. And there could easily be one at 3rd because it's a four-way stop. And there is one at 2nd, there is one at 1st, and then, of course, one at Surf. But it's interesting that Columbia, which seems to be getting the most complaints about speeding, has no reason not to speed. You know what I mean? It's a throughway right now with nothing to slow you down whatsoever.
Well,
So-
I'd like to just add a concept. Most departments of transportation suggest that stop signs are not appropriate speed calming measures. They do a couple things. First of all, they're environmentally unfriendly, making a car stop and then start again. But they also irritate the bejeepers out of drivers who may then actually be encouraged to speed because they're so frustrated having to keep stopping. So I'm just saying what I
If the
read.
fines were increased to
I have a
$200,
hard time with
I
that
think
one, I would say, right.
I think they'd pay attention.
Mark,
Yeah, Mike.
I spent a lot of time busting through this Rossi report as well. And if anyone hasn't, both in the crowd, doesn't have access to it or hasn't read it, there's a lot of data in here and a lot of information that answers a lot of the questions we have in front of us. All right. So one thing that was stood out to me was 111 total crashes in 5 years. It's not a lot, considering how busy this town is. You think about everybody backing out, this, that, right? So speed, right, I don't think is an issue with the crashes, right? The speed is more of a annoyance on the roads, right? People walking. I also believe that if you look at this traffic study also here where they marked and they calculated speeds on the average roads, believe it or not, which may not make, State Road was the #1 offender. Rehoboth Avenue being #2, right? And it looked at Columbia, Henlopen, Hickman, King Charles, right? So it looked at a lot of these roads we're talking about. So I think sometimes perception is a little different when you're walking your dog. I just rode both those roads today. I tried to do 15 miles an hour. I got passed by a bike this morning at 15 miles an hour, okay? I also had someone pull out in front of me in 2 local business trucks that probably were doing 50 miles an hour, okay? So there's no doubt there's an issue there. I personally think the stop signs would solve a ton of issues. It's a local road. It's not a state road. I have a feeling we can make those things happen a lot quicker. There is a stop sign way down, almost toward the end, that's hidden by a holly bush. And in fact, it's discolored from the holly bush on one of the roads all the way at the end. But I think the one thing we need to look at also is enforcement, right? I don't know the numbers because it's not in here as far as how many tickets we give out for speeding, how much we spend time on some of these roads looking. I like the idea on one of the main roads. I'm not sure if it was Columbia or Henlopen, I think it had 2 of the signs that tell you how fast you're going. They catch your attention. They're important. I don't think it would be a bad idea to drop that speed limit maybe down to 20 instead of 25, right? I think 15 is way too slow.
Which is the recommendation in the Rusty study is again, that's why I think we should look at some of their recommendations, is to lower the town speed limit to 20.
Correct. And so I think there's a lot of things like that we can do that aren't as major and aren't as big a change that needs to be done to go through all kind of hoops. So that's just my thought. I think we look at the simple things, the things that are already in here that someone has spent a lot of time spending. We've spent a lot of money looking at it. That could help, I think, in a lot of these discussions.
I just had to add one thing about the stop signs. So definitely when it's on a Del Dot road, you have to have a Del Dot study. So I was where I lived at home prior to coming down here. I was living in a development on a corner, and I tried to get Del Dot to put stop signs to slow the traffic down because there was a speedway down there. And the quote from them was, "We do not put stop signs to slow speed," just like you said. But if you make, I believe, if you make a decent point that there's a safety, we're trying to do this. That was 20 years ago, so they may have changed their idea. And when I talked to Evan after the last meeting, he said, we can put stop signs on any city street without Del Dot approval. But he said, a general thought is it's nice to get their thoughts of something of where we're going to put a stop sign just so you have some backup. So that's what I know, that's what his thoughts were. But a couple stop signs would help.
We have another alternative. Instead of putting stop signs, we could put slow signs. Do they work? I don't know. But
No.
Probably not.
And I'd just like to add about enforcement to go along with Hoyt's recommendation. Enforcement without consequences is pointless.
I was amazed when I saw how many times we stop cars for speeding and how few tickets we give. We give an awful lot of warnings. Over 50% of the time, they get a warning. So unless there are multiple, or they swear at the officer or something, they're going to get a warning,
Yeah.
I think
which is something you could easily change.
you had a question from Frank out there.
Yes. We're a little informal here. You have to go over to this one.
Frank Cole, 24 Wilmington Avenue. You guys just started to touch on this, but over the past year, maybe 2 years, the enforcement of Rehoboth Avenue, of Bayard State, I mean, I was out a few Sundays ago, and I think I saw 3 simultaneous traffic stops being conducted. And that was after I got pulled over and was told I needed a seatbelt to go from Virginia Avenue to Baltimore Avenue, but, that's my own fault. So I think my point is this enhanced enforcement, seem to be a lot of new young officers. They're aggressively enforcing the traffic laws. They're pulling people over. I would say give it some time, but I think that's the #1 way you're going to discourage people, residents and visitors. Give it a little more time, but I think the word will get out. Don't speed in Rehoboth. You're going to get pulled over, and that's becoming a reality as I see it. The second thing is, to one of Hoyt's points, and I'm trying to think back many years ago when the topic of increasing the fines came up. Glenn Mandelis had it down. I think once you get above a $100 threshold, people have the ability to appeal something to the Court of Common Pleas. So right now, they can go to Alderman's Court. It's efficient. It's good for the city. You don't have officers that have to run out to Georgetown just because somebody wants to appeal something. But once you get over that $100 threshold, it's going to involve a little bit more work on the city's part.
Can I ask, did you get a ticket for the seatbelt?
I did.
You got a warning, right?
No, I got a ticket.
Oh, did you?
So I
All
learned my
right, good.
lesson. I'll be wearing my ticket when I
complaint was going to be that
leave.
we give too many warnings.
Those are,
right. Bring it
just
back up
just
here,
quickly,
yes.
those are helpful points. If you go and read about this stuff, which I'm geeky enough to do, the #1 thing you can do to reduce speed is narrow roads. Now, I disagree with the proposal to narrow King Charles and turn it into a parking lot, but is narrowing roads. And I know there's a commissioner who may be present who was involved in doing that on Munson. It's a visual thing. If you push out where the parking spaces are, I used to live in Germany, and the little cobblestone roads, nobody speeds on them because they're about this wide. right? And you have to pull over for a car coming. And you see that on the blocks between King Charles and Bayard as you come off of the beach. Traffic goes pretty slowly because you're constantly having to pull over to let somebody through, right? And so drivers, if you give drivers the fear that they're going to clip something or anything else, they slow down. And I think that's your number one incentive. And so I think the first thing we should look at, and again, that's in the Rossi report, is let's narrow these roads visually in whatever ways we can.
How would you
And
do
that's
that
just paint on the ground.
Columbia? I want to pull it back to Columbia
Yeah,
and,
I think that's paint on, they suggest in here, edge the lines along Columbia Avenue to create a narrowing effect and help reduce speed. They say elsewhere, put a middle line down it. I don't know if there's one there already. But so, you know, I think those measures are cheap and cheerful, immediate, and probably where we should really push to start, because we could get that paint down fairly quickly. And obviously, that may help, it may not. And if it doesn't, then we got to go be more radical with the solutions.
And I think to validate Colin's point, I don't know the numbers, but I doubt you see anybody getting speeding tickets on First Street
Yes.
around Rehoboth Avenue.
Because it gets tight.
You know, I mean, it's scary enough just to drive down that street.
And Collins, as an added benefit to the narrowing, both of those streets, to me, visually, are huge.
Yes.
I mean, they really, and a lot of it's because of the gravel that people have put for parking on the sides, and some have actually appear to have extended their driveways wider than it looks like maybe supposed to be. But I think you would, and once again, I'm not a traffic, road guy, but it looks to me like you would even be able to create an actual bike lane. So instead of having those arrows in both directions, it looks like it would be wide enough to have actually a bike lane. Like I said, I don't know, I haven't measured it, but it'd be real nice if that completes the circle, if while we're looking at that, to add to the next thing we're gonna eventually look at is, could you create a bike lane also within the width of what's there?
yeah, there's been some talk about where the right-of-ways are over there from the time the sewer was put in, when the pipe was put in. People discovered they didn't own what they thought they owned and vice versa. So I always hate to get into taking of property because it's going to be sticky. But nevertheless, we could certainly, I know that we own the middle of the road, and we could certainly put a line down the
I
middle
think
of
the
the road.
key thing is the sides, is to put something on the sides that indicates the width of the road.
So what,
But now I'd ask the question, is it necessary to have, bikes on both Columbia and Henlopen?
I think that's another, I think that's a discussion for another day. But no, you don't need bike lanes everywhere. Yeah.
let's open it up to the public, and I know a couple of people had questions. Chris, I should say comments or questions.
Hi, everybody. Chris Galanti, resident commissioner. Hi, I'm delighted to be here. Glad that this committee has taken this topic up. Over the course of my campaign last summer, I went to close to 20 meet and greets, met with constituents and talked to them about my platform and issues that are important to them and, to the city of Rehoboth. And I heard at every single one of those events this topic of the importance of pedestrian safety and how do we achieve that through traffic calming. I implore this advisory committee to come out of today's discussion with some low-hanging fruit recommendations that would be put in front of the Board of Commissioners that would be able to be implemented before the summer 2026 season. At the workshop meeting this earlier Monday, we approved painting on crosswalks on King Charles. I think there is an opportunity to extend that that recommendation to a broader set of streets across the city, many of which were detailed in Hoyt's presentation. I think that's what I would characterize as a low-hanging fruit recommendation. In addition to painting of crosswalks, I heard Mr. Roth make a couple of points around painting double yellow lines down the middle of the street on Columbia. There are probably other areas where that could be done. It was done on the 300 block of Munson. It made a very significant visual impact. That painting was also done around driveways. Again, you're increasing the visual impact on the roadway. Something is happening here. It causes people to slow down. So painting is my number one recommendation. Secondarily, I think four-way stop signs make a big difference. I heard Commissioner Gossett say that he was in favor of four-way stop signs on a number of the intersections on King Charles. I'm not sure he said it for all of them, but I think that we really need to look at that, and I would recommend that we do that. There's opportunities specifically on Columbia and Henlopen. Both of those thoroughfares, I heard it mentioned before, have very long stretches where there is no place to stop. And I think when you stop, it slows things down. In addition to Columbia and Henlopen, I think there's opportunities to do four-way stop signs on State Road, as well as 1st and 2nd Street. Again, the goal here is to increase pedestrian safety, and that will go a long way. I also heard the point made several times about state roads and the sort of some of the issues associated with doing infrastructure improvements on state roads that are outside of the control of the city. Had long conversation with Chief Banks about this, with Evan Miller. A lot of things have changed since 20 years ago when Dave was making his point about some of his challenges. What I heard from both the chief and from Evan is that the state is really giving a lot of deference to localities on their own issues. So there's obviously a consultation process that has to happen. We can't just go and put four-way stop signs on State Road, for example. But if we go forward with a justification, a reason, obviously this is being talked about in this committee. There are petitions from residents on Henlopen, on Columbia. I think that goes a long way to making the case for why this needs to be done. We talked about fines. Mark is right. That is going to be picked up over the course of the next calendar year in the budgeting process. I think that's a way to really affect changes through people's pocketbooks. I know that's going to happen. A lot of the commissioners are really big supporters of that. One of the things that when I was advocating for traffic calming on Munson was to get a digital reader installed. There was one installed on the 300 block of Munson. It makes so much difference. I sit on my front porch and I watch people react to that. I recommend that we look for opportunities to install digital readers. I think Henlopen is a perfect example. There's already one on Columbia. There's already one on Hickman. I think we could definitely install one on Henlopen, on State Road, and on the 200 block of Laurel, which sees a lot of traffic on Sundays with church traffic. So those are what I would consider, or what I would characterize as low-hanging fruit that should get pushed through this committee and then put in front of the Board of Commissioners. I liked some of the other recommendations that were in Hoyt's presentation and that have been discussed here, and I would advocate that we consider a demonstration project or a pilot project in the form of bump outs. There are opportunities for bump outs on Henlopen, probably on State Road at the intersection of State and Hickman. When we did the traffic calming on Munson, there was a bump out done at State and Munson to facilitate pedestrian traffic across that thoroughfare. It made a huge difference, and I think there are opportunities for additional ones. And then lastly, I really do like the concept of speed tables. I've seen them work in a lot of communities. The speed tables, in particular at crosswalks, create a real opportunity, or you have to stop because you're coming up to a stop sign. I use the term California roll. I can see from my front porch, again, the intersection of Country Club Drive and Munson. I would say at least 50% of the people do not come to a stop, and they slow down, they acknowledge it, they treat it like a yield sign. I call it the California roll, and they go right through it. And if you had an elevated area, broad, that was marked with painting for the crosswalk, it really forces people to slow down. So those are my thoughts and recommendations. I really appreciate you guys taking this up. I think this is really important work. I can't tell you how many times I heard this topic come up over the course of the summer. I mean, at least 200 people brought this to my attention. We have petitions from residents on Henlopen. We have a really extensive petition from people on Columbia. We did this on Munson. You know, we can't do this in a block by block fashion. I call it whack-a-mole. You fix one problem on one street and it moves to another. The reason why the people on Henlopen are having so many problems is because there was a speed bump on Columbia and it pushed all the traffic to Henlopen. I heard the comment about closing Henlopen. I think the residents of Columbia would really have a big problem with that. Please consider this holistically and make recommendations so that we're attacking this in a really comprehensive way. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Hoyt? Oh, no, not again.
Thank you again. And Marco, it's Hoyt Decker, 200 block of Laurel Street. Sorry from before. I just want to follow up, a broken record. I want to follow up real quick on your points about the Columbia and Henlopen speedways, I'll call them. In my wish list, I've got a term mid-block. And what I'm suggesting there, and this works with paint, it can work with stop signs, it can work with the little flashing lights that almost killed me the other day right out in front of this building. But nevertheless, it will be effective. And there are long stretches, I don't know who was pointing that out, but there are long stretches there. One other thing, bicyclists are going to go where they're going to go. And so, yeah, sure, put the white stripes down the outside part of the street, double yellow line down the middle. That's going to slow them down, yes. If you can get a bike lane in there, by all means, put it in there. But the bicyclists are going to go where they're going to go. I've 70 years worth of bicycling, so thank you.
Mike Bover, 136. Hoyt, you're my hero. Everything in his presentation hit a home run with me personally. And I do agree that we can't just pick a street and wait a year and then pick another street and wait a year. It's not going to work. Stop signs are very inexpensive. Where a stop sign is needed, they should be installed as quickly as they can. I'm going to use Henlopen Avenue again because I live there. There's one stop sign, no stop signs between Easton Street and entrance to Henlopen Acres. That's 1/2 of a mile. And I'm on it every day. Easily people go 45, 50 miles an hour. And I walk the dog, so I understand the impression thing. I know when people are speeding. It's not hard to define when you're on that road every day like we are. So hopefully soon we can get stop signs put throughout the town. Hopefully we can lower the speed limit because it does help. If you put 15, they'll probably go 25 because people always go 10 over, and enforcement's another big issue. They may be trying, but I don't see a lot of it on our road. I just don't. And it is the bike lane is another huge caveat. I think in the year and a half I've been here, I've seen 8 people ride their bike on Columbia Avenue. You can't. All the bicyclists, because it's part of the bike path, are on Henlopen Avenue by the hundreds every day during the season, which is about 6 months long, with children on tricycles, the mom and dad, children pushing strollers. To me, I like the chaos of it all, but when you interject tractor trailers pulling sod and pump trucks and all this other stuff together, it's a nightmarish issue. I'm surprised more people have not been hurt there. But the bike lane that has to be protected a lot better. Stop signs quickly, I hope. And I think what everyone said is very positive. This is one of the best meetings I've ever been to. It really is. And hopefully we can do some things to start right away and then take off more fruit, as Chris said. Let's start something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I add one thing to that? One thing. So I agree 100% with the stop signs. I agree 100% with slowing the traffic down. There's one thing about the stop signs is I talked to the captain after the police captain was here. He's like, you cannot put stop signs on every street. He says, you just can't. It's just going to kill us. So whether we think about every other street, you just can't have, he said, people will be blowing through them. And he says, it'll bother us. He says, we got to get from place to place. So let's think about it. distances for those stop signs, but I agree putting them in.
Could I just ask a clarifying, Commissioner Gossett, I believe, mentioned that there is actually speed data that's kept today along Henlopen or Columbia in the meeting. He talked about the presidential motorcade was the only one that had been going 70 miles an hour. Is that for those who weren't there at the meeting, Commissioner Gossett made a question that actually that data exists and that we know it. It's not as fast as we think it is. And this is not an argument against calming speeds. But is that information public?
I don't know.
And could it be? Because I think it would be interesting to know where if we do have one of these machines that Hoyt mentioned, it'd be interesting to see that information. I don't see anything sensitive about it.
Chief Banks would have that.
Yeah, and I think that would be good to recommend that that's made public in some form or fashion, just to make sure everybody has the right, is talking from the right
I
place.
disagreed a little bit, and it's a perception. I mean, when I'm walking my dog, if I feel unsafe, I don't care if it's only 10 miles an hour, it's too fast.
And I think that's an absolutely critical point, because as a bicycle advocate,
Right.
I know that sometimes bicycles can scare people, and that's a perception, and you've got to address the perception even if the risk is low.
And we have to look at our community, too. We have a number of senior citizens
course.
that live in Rehoboth Beach that 10 miles an hour hits them. It's different than 10
Absolutely.
miles an hour hits other people.
No question.
Mark, can I make a kind of a official stake in the ground? Sure. To say something like, I'd like to see us recommend stop signs on Felton and 3rd on Columbia and Henlopen. I would like to see us recommend stop signs on Hickman, Stokely, and Rodman that intersect on King Charles. Also, I'd like to see us put a digital speed signs on all entry roads into Rehoboth, plus 2 additional ones on King Charles. And then the crosswalks are wonderful with paint on the ground, but I think more effective, and they've done a really nice job in Dewey, is crosswalks that don't have the ability to warn someone that they're there or to flash lights that says you need to slow down, I think are more effective than none, but not as effective as they could be. So I'd like to see, especially on King Charles, where you have so many people that are walking across to get to the beach, that we would install some of the flashing signs to encourage people to use those crosswalks maybe more than other crosswalks.
We have a whole special meeting on King Charles.
Okay.
So if we can hold
So,
off on
but
King
when
Charles.
we were talking about all-inclusive,
right.
that's why I put that in there.
All right, I'm just trying to get what you're saying here. In the beginning, you mentioned Felton. Felton's right at, wouldn't you want something more further down the street?
So there are some more, but if you look
Right
at
after
Felton
Sussex.
3rd, it kind of spreads them apart enough where it's one in the beginning and then to kind of set the tone. And then I think there's 3, if I'm correct, on Columbia.
But they're all down at the
They're all
southern
toward
end.
the end. They're
Right.
starting
It's
at like
First, Second,
2nd
and
Street,
Third.
1st Street.
First, Second, and
Yep,
Third.
Yep.
No, I'm sorry, there's not one on Third. It's Surf First and Second. There's none on Third, none on Fourth, none on Dover, none on Eastern, none on Fifth, none on Kent, none on
Yeah.
Felton, and none on Sussex.
So I was looking at this thing, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and the one with Dover and 4th is,
Yeah.
and 5th, some of those streets come in really
do, at an
weird
angle.
angles.
Gerard
So I
comes
think
in
it's
at an
really
angle,
hard to
right.
create a stop sign at some of these angles. So that's why I used the ones I did. So,
The logical place would probably be Third because it's the most highly visible. It's an obvious 4-way stop.
Yeah.
It's not an angled type of thing.
yeah,
And also on Henlopen, there is one at Grove, but there's none in Felton at Henlopen, none in Gerard, which also comes in at an angle.
correct.
And then Third Avenue desperately needs one because it's a 4-way stop and does not have anything.
Correct.
On Third Ave, on Henlopen. And then Second has one, and for some reason, they seem to be congregated down at the southern end, the
Toward the
beach
southern
side.
end.
Yeah, yeah. Elise, am I right on that? You would know. Do you mind chiming in? Elise lives there.
You're, 130 Henlopen. You're absolutely right. They're all more towards the beach, from Henlopen Acres on. So I think it would be wise to put one at Third, and perhaps another one. And I sure liked Chris's list of low-hanging fruit. I just wanted to, relay that. And I think, I mean, the neighbors we've talked to, they would like to see the low-hanging fruit. I mean, no one's mentioned a digital sign, but I think a digital sign on Henlopen would slow traffic down. And the painting of the yellow line down the middle, I think would be a good idea. Might keep the bikes on one side instead of driving down the middle like they do. I mean, I think that's the biggest problem is the bikes. They don't know where to go. I'm going to bring up one that might be controversial. Again, this is more for long-term, but I think when we talk about speeding, to the gentleman's point at the end, it is the local servicemen, the trucks, the larger trucks. You know, could we get trucks off of Henlopen? And I know that moves them to Columbia, but trucks and bikes just don't make a good combination. It's just something to think about down the road. I think, you know, Columbia was meant more for truck traffic. It's concrete, not asphalt. They're all going to the same place. They're going over to Henlopen Acres. They're going to North Shore. I mean, most of those trucks are going to North Shore, frankly. So I think that's it. So yeah, this meeting has been terrific. A lot of good ideas, and we really appreciate it. I mean, I was talking to neighbors last night who couldn't come today, but are really, really happy that this discussion is going on. So thank you.
So Mark, now do we try to come up with a list of
Yeah,
everything we
we'll
want to
go
go
back to
forward?
Mike's. This is the most comprehensive that I've heard.
All right. And so we can just keep adding to it, I guess?
Yeah.
So the one question before you start on that was, out of the Board of Commissioners, did they also not recommend painting crosswalks on Bayard also, besides King Charles?
It was mentioned.
Yeah, it was kind of like up in the air, someone mentioned
Right,
it,
it
but
was
I'm
up
not
in the air, it
sure
was
whether,
mentioned, yeah.
but that should be
I
put
think
in
it
there.
was tossed to us, and again, I have full intentions of covering those streets also. But I thought we have sort of an emergency situation on Henlopen and Columbia, so we thought we'd start there. And as Chris said, we want to make it comprehensive and all-inclusive, but we have to start somewhere. Correct.
Can I make a-
Yep.
I just wanted to make a suggestion. I think Michael's list is good. An alternative would be, you know, I can do the minutes over the weekend, put a list together of a lot of the recommendations, send them to Mark. You can decide to prioritize them so that we can have them ready for the next commissioners' meeting and present them at that commissioners' meeting.
Commissioners' meeting is next week. It's
Okay,
pretty soon, though, right?
I can do that, but
I think it would be
I can do
possible.
that.
I think it would be possible for us to come up with a resolution of sorts right now. I'm not hearing any voices that are disagreeing. It's just exactly what we say.
right.
And you know, I would paint it, and I'd made a very similar list. Yours is more detailed with specific sites, which I have no issue with. But I think I'm hearing here that we want to, that we as a committee think looking into a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on, I don't know why I throw you to say the appropriate roads, you know, maybe not the artery roads, but is something we're all behind. Number two, painting crosswalks wherever is practical, and maybe we need a plan from the city that looks at some of the you know, I don't know what the constraints are for where you can put them, but wherever, and then we, as a subnote, we note where we think those should be on Henlopen at the moment. Painting driveway boxes to narrow the roads. I mean, some of this stuff is in the Rossi report, so I think we should reference as recommended in the Rossi report, which is paid for and by professionals, 24-hour speed limits, crosswalks, driveways. Those are the near-term priorities, and then we list out for Henlopen and Columbia, this is our best estimate of what that should be, but obviously we need the police input, we need the city's input and the like.
Again, we're only advisory, so we'll go to the board anyhow, and I'm sure the police chief and so forth would chime in at that point. Steve?
I got a question. If you're putting crosswalks in, do you need a handicap ramp on each of those crosswalks?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer.
And does the city have one on every corner?
Everything new we do.
Yeah.
You know, the old parts of town, we probably do not. Not building any new sidewalks without them anymore.
I mean, that's the sort of constraint that I'm saying the city may come back with, based, because.
Again, we're going to find that there are different issues in each section of town too, which is why it's good to say we want to do a comprehensive, all-inclusive, but on the other hand, there's separate problems for separate neighborhoods. Anybody else? Any comments? So it sounds like what I'm hearing is that we have a pretty good list, that we need to just get it together. I'd like to pass the list around to everybody before I bring it to the commissioners. So maybe if you don't mind with the notes that we've made, I'll take them, Patricia, and I'm gonna try to keep King Charles off it because we're doing that separately, and keep it as directed as much as possible to the neighborhoods that we're talking about today, the Henlopen and Columbia. What about this thing about the
Mark, can
speed
I ask
limit?
a stickler question around that? How does that work with the freedom of information? If you send us a list and we have comments, that's then not
Well,
public?
as long as you don't send them to each other, I think it's okay. If you send them to myself or Patricia, I think we're okay.
Okay.
I mean, you and I can have a discussion, but you and I and Steve and Patricia can't have a discussion.
Yeah, you can't reply to all.
Right.
That's the issue.
Right. I just want to make sure that it includes everybody's thoughts.
Yeah, fair.
That's all. Much like we did with what we sent around last time. Would you mind, Mike, sending me your list? Because yours was a good start. Yours was a good start, rather than start from square one.
No problem.
And then we'll take it from there. Now, while we're here, though, I think low-hanging fruit would be the speed limit. I mean, is there any reason not to discuss and make a reference to the committee on reducing a citywide speed limit?
220 miles
I
an hour.
can't think of any streets where I want anything above 20 miles an hour. Does anybody?
How
have
much
any
pushback? I agree, they drive too fast in here, but is that going to be major pushback? I personally think 15 is too slow. I just don't think, I just think it's too slow.
Yeah, I could walk faster than 15
20,
miles an hour.
I don't know. But like the city of Wilmington, I think the speed is 25.
Currently 25.
Yeah, the city of, the city of Wilmington, I'm saying, a big city, the city of Wilmington is only 25. I don't know whether you can go to 20. It's just throwing it out there, what everybody thinks. 20 is slow.
Keep in mind, it's 25 now and everybody goes 35.
I know. I'm with you. I'll go for it if everybody else is, but I think,
I think it's in the Rossi report, and I think our resolution should reference that. Implement what the professionals have told us.
good point.
I also know Wilmington's not a great example for any of the traffic calming or safety
No,
stuff.
I know.
Right? You know, if you look in DC, what they're doing in a lot of places, they're putting speed limits down to 20 in places.
20.
Right? And so, and they are a forward-looking city with this sort of stuff, so.
The recommendation could also be, we want to recommend between 20 and 25. It doesn't have to be one number, right? Is that right? Or are you saying it has to be one
Yes,
number?
we want to- but they still have the leeway not to give tickets until a
No,
different
I'm
number.
saying determined by where the speed sign is. Maybe Rehoboth Avenue is, 25, but side streets are 20. I'm just throwing out the different, a whole city doesn't have to be one speed limit, or is that what you're suggesting?
Well,
Is that what you're suggesting?
I can't think of anywhere I wouldn't want it to be 25.
Okay.
You know, I mean,
All right.
that's just my opinion.
Okay.
I think the more
All right.
Probably have the
consistent,
most crashes and injuries on Rehoboth Avenue, so.
State Road is horrible. I
And
mean,
what is Rehoboth Avenue at the moment? Do we know?
25.
25, like
It is
everything.
25
I
now?
think everything.
Okay.
I think the more consistent we get it, the better it would be.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that's different than 25 currently.
Think of Ellendale and Greenwood on Route 16 if you drive that way, if you're ever going out to the bridge, right? Everybody knows you're going to get a ticket driving through there if you go above the thing. So everybody goes the speed limit, right? And they've narrowed their roads. There's never anybody parked in them, but they've put parking spaces there so the road feels narrow, and it works.
Especially if we do it together with other minor changes like striping and so forth. Boxing the driveways that was mentioned. Hoyt, one more time for the road.
Thank you. I'm still on Laurel Street. Bless your hearts. I'm just looking for a little flexibility on 15 is my number. And just point of information, on the books in the city, 10 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, and 20 miles an hour. I believe 20 is in there already. So there are streets in town where you have to go no more than 10 miles an hour, okay? But my point for you, for purposes of your resolution, be flexible. Maybe you don't give a specific speed limit, and I think you need to be flexible to say that maybe 15 on certain streets are good, 20 is good on certain other streets, so.
Isn't it better, though, to have the entire community the same and everybody knows what it is? We want to be known as a place where you cannot speed.
15.
We're also then just punting the decision to somebody.
anywhere, but
We're
You know,
punting
we
the
have to
decision
apply to
somebody else.
bicycles too then.
Mark, I just like to say, I agree that the speed limit needs to be, I think it should be citywide. I do think, though, that in the off-season, we don't have a lot of people. If you in town during the off-season on certain days, and if you're doing 15 miles an hour, it's just frustrating. And for why? You don't have as many people running the roads. At least that's my perception or what I see when I go through the city. So I would just like for us to be mindful that whatever we put in place, we're going to live with year-round.
And we don't want to have to change signs seasonally, so,
No, that's too confusing, too. I'm just advocating for some moderation around, how do we live here all year long, also knowing that the summer is chaotic and that we do need to do something about the traffic and the pedestrians and everything else that goes on in the summer.
And luckily, I think the police have some flexibility in there too.
Yes.
Obviously, they can go easier on us in the wintertime if we're the only one in town than than they would in the.
I always see them on the main road. I mean, it is a great deterrent to see that there is somebody looking and watching for
On
speed
State
limits.
Road, of course, which I think has one of the speediest speedways, there's always a cop sitting right when you get off, but it seems like cars go by the cop and speed up.
Yeah, I also do think the digital reader would be really helpful for areas where you find that there is just constant speeding, to have that, visual, in your face that, oh gosh, I am speeding, can be helpful.
Do we know the cost of the digital readers? Are those expensive?
I don't know.
Because obviously, us calling for 10 of them if they're super expensive is different from if they're, Chris, do you have a sense?
They're a couple $100.
Okay, so they're not, $1,000. Okay.
It was, when they did them on Munson a couple years ago, I'm not.
It was not a meaningful,
It was not insignificant.
okay.
It's also the good time to get it before budget season, right? We got to get that in if we want to, what our recommendation.
And if we stop giving warnings and started giving tickets, they'll pay for themselves.
There you go.
All right, so is that how we're going to leave it? Is there anything else that anybody would like to bring up?
So are we going to
and
pass
discuss?
are we going to, a recommendation of 20 miles an hour? I wasn't sure if you were objecting to 20 or,
No, I think 20 is fine. I just think 15 is a little too slow.
We're only.
I think there's
we
one
can
person
only
in the room
pass
who
it
likes
to
15.
pass it. It goes to them.
Yeah.
To the Board of Commissioners, to us, the Board of Commissioners, but we can make the recommendation.
And do we vote on that, or do we
We
just,
can,
do
we
you
can.
just put it in
We
the?
could certainly vote if we're.
Well, okay,
we
I'd like
generally
to, I'd like to
vote till I know
propose
we're
that our
gonna win.
committee recommendation is consideration per the Rossi report of a 20 mile per hour speed limit in the boundaries of Rehoboth Beach.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that one's done.
So for the rest of these, we're all going to supply input to you based
Yes,
upon what we
and
think?
then I'm
and
going to
you'll
send it back to you, and if everybody okays, then I'll bring it to the commissioners next Friday. Okay? And if something's in there that you're not comfortable with, say so, and we'll hold off. We won't send that portion of it until we rediscuss it.
And if I could just say, when Mark sends it out to everybody, and you send back comments, not to all, but to Mark, if you could CC me, and then I can keep track of all your recommendations. So that would be helpful.
I'm
Thank
going to
you.
look for yours, Mike, first, because we're going to use that as the base, and we're going to add on. And skip the St. Charles, or the King Charles. We won't do that. All right, is there anything else from anybody up here? Let's see if there's anything else on the agenda. Citizen comment, one more time. Thank you. Possible future agenda, well, I think we've already discussed it. We know that at the next meeting, originally, we were going to be talking about e-bikes and e-everything. We've also been asked to put King Charles on, so I think that we'll probably stick just to those subjects because I suspect that e-bikes is going to be a comprehensive one. However, if there are any further discussion on these items coming back from the commissioners, I reserve the right to put those on too, and if need be, bounce the e-bikes to the following meeting. Fair enough? All right, committee member comments? Anybody have anything for the good of the order? Next meeting, it's always the second Thursday, so it's second Thursday of January. I don't know what that is, but whatever the second Thursday of January is, same time, same place. With no further ado, we call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.